I'd love to hear, you know, your perspective, because this thing really kicked off from you, and this was, you know, your idea. This was a passion of yours, and I think a lot of it is rooted in this story that I hope you'll share with us right now.
Right. So I guess in the past, growing up, I went to a smaller church, and with my family. In that church, things happened that caused my family to not want to go to that church anymore. From then, when I got older, I started finding a new church. That church was a much larger church, so I was a little like skeptical. Everybody talks about like the mega churches and stay away and all that stuff.
Right.
But I gave it a try and I loved it.
What did you love about it?
The atmosphere, like the culture that was like established within the church, the congregation, like I just loved it. Walking in there, you feel at home. Throughout like the 2 years that I was there before I moved, they were encouraging me to go to a small group, join these small groups. They're held outside of the church. They're at somebody's home. It's like a small group. Yeah. And it's basically like Bible study, or you can choose groups. Whatever it is. So I joined a co-ed, young adults co-ed small group. Finally, it took a while. The thoughts that were going through my head, I was like, well, one, like, I'm the only one that goes to this church. I don't go with my family. I'm a young lady. I'm single. Going to a random person's house that I don't know, that's like weird to me. Like,
so I mean, let's just pause on that, right? Like, just the fact that you're having this feeling, even though it's in the context of this church thing, speaks to the fact that it's not an ironclad firewall of like, you know, totally cohesive culture. There's still these sort of instances where you're going to have that feeling on the back of your neck, or this kind of, you know, leery feeling as you're stepping into a situation.
Right, exactly. So over time, I finally joined the small group. I loved it. It actually ended up being like one of the best moments like of my life for me. But in that small group, there was a situation that happened. So it was co-ed, young adult, females and males. So the males typically are supposed to like pray or, you know, meet one-on-one with the males, and the women meet with the woman. Right. Normally. So one of the males wanted to meet with everybody outside of the normal setting. Right. So he met with one of the girls that were in the group, and she loved going to the gym. That was like her thing. So he was like, all right, let's meet at the gym. So they met at the gym at like 9 after she got off or whatever. He wanted to like get to know her a little bit because he's her leader. He made it squat day, which made her feel super uncomfortable. And then they were at the gym for like 3 hours. So she said she didn't get home till like close to midnight. It's squat day for the whole entire 3 hours. Yikes. So that made her feel like super uncomfortable. She reported it to our female leader. She didn't really know like what to do about it, so she reported it to her leader. But overall, like he wasn't he wasn't the leader anymore, but he was still able to serve. He was still like a greeter at the church, so still like face of the church. The issue never got resolved and never got handled, and she ended up leaving.
And nobody ever talked to her about it.
Yeah.
And there was no sort of corporate statement to say, hey, listen, just a reminder, let's not do 3-hour squat days at midnight. You know what I'm saying? Right.
They did try to like talk with the guy and stuff like that, but nobody ever came back to the girl to let her know, hey, here's what we did. This was, you know, everything.
So like stuff is always going to happen. Like that could have been totally innocent.
Right.
Okay, it could have, right? So it could have been totally innocent, and there's, you know, when stuff comes up, you have to address it, of course. But the other side of that loop being closed is closing the loop on the congregation side, closing the loop on this individual who felt so uncomfortable to let her know, hey, this is important to us. I don't want anybody in our church culture to feel the way that you're feeling. Right. And by the way, we took XYZ steps specifically for this situation. Right. And also we're going to be saying something publicly to remind everybody who's a leader of a small group of what's appropriate and what isn't.
Right.
So I'm just saying, without that other thing, she's going to end up moving on to a different church.
Right. And one of the things that kind of like bothered me, I guess, through the whole thing that made me so passionate about this was prior she had went to church with her family. Something happened at that church that caused her to stop going to church as a whole. She opened herself up to coming to church again, and then something else happened. So it's like the repetitive thing that keeps happening and nothing getting resolved.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of different things to consider, right? I mean, anytime you get a bunch of people in any kind of a community, whether it's a workplace, whether it's a city, whether it's a town, whether it's a church, whatever it is, whenever you get people bumping up against each other, you're going to have issues. And the key is to develop a culture that's actually authentic, that's actually strong, that actually addresses these issues, and that empowers the people who are disempowered. Those are the people who are scared to report, right? Anybody who's scared to report is by definition disempowered, right? Empower those folks to have a voice, and also empower the church to address these issues and close the loop to preserve that culture as it grows. I mean, that's really what the challenge is. The worst thing as a church you can do is when you've tripled and quadrupled and you're 10x in size, to look back at where you came from and not even know it, not even recognize who you are anymore, right?
Yeah.
So preserving that is critical.